The Millipede Effect, My Quest to Understand and Help the Homeless, Stranded, and Down and Out by author Rodney D. Brooks. Government, civic organizations, and religion, the church, all play a major part in finding ways to help the plight of the homeless. This is displayed on a daily basis by so many who are constantly doing their part through service, financial giving, and voluntary work. However, the challenge still remains. Like the Millipede, with its many body parts and compartments, government, civic, church, volunteers, and many legs, the people driving the groups, there is much misinformation about what is going on and even greater fear about the problem. We take a look at the success and challenges at this age old problem of finding ways to help the homeless, stranded, and down and out. Chapter 1 The Millipede. The millipede is a myopic invertebrate with an elongated body composed of many segments, most of which bear two pairs of legs. Each of these segments is actually two segments fused together as one. The word millipede is formed from the Latin word for 1,000, but there is no evidence that the millipede have 1,000 legs. The millipede's body is similar to a long train in that it has a series of connected sections. However, a train has rail cars with wheels, and each section does not have the ability to work independently of the other. The millipede's first segment, and usually its last segment, have single pairs of legs, while the other segments are double legged. All the segments work in collaboration with each other. The millipede grows as it ages by adding segments to the body and legs to each segment. Millipedes are among the oldest known animals. They are hunted and preyed upon by various animals, including reptiles, birds, mammals, and insects. Other invertebrates have specialized structures that allow them to feed on millipedes. Chapter 2 My Thoughts. When you think about someone who is homeless, stranded, or down and out, I'm sure all kinds of things come to mind. Some are real and some are perceived, but all determine how you will act towards that individual or someone in that situation. My interest in the matter is not something that is a mountaintop revelation, nor does it make my effort any greater than the next person's. What you will find in this book is my efforts to do my part in the century long struggle and hopefully a common person's perspective. For example, not the view of government, organized religion, or a social organization, although each group plays a huge part in tackling this problem. Through my faith and belief, I want to find ways to tackle this problem. There are a great many obstacles facing us in the plight to help those in need. Many great people are doing their part. However, the issues are still here, and on some fronts, they're gotten worse. Many individuals are working tirelessly to address the host of concerns. If I could give all of them kudos, I would. Many people are on a mission to deal with the major problems this country faces regarding the homeless. If only one person tried, it would be a monumental task. It would take a collective effort, individuals in conjunction with the government, religious organizations, and social organizations. Just how big is the homeless population? The numbers have ranged from 3 million to 3.5 million in any given year, which is roughly 1% of the U.S. population. Chapter 3 What is homelessness? Ask most people what homelessness is, and you may hear someone who is out on the streets, sleeping under a bridge, or begging for help. Ask those same individuals what circumstances may have caused an individual to become homeless, and the answers will vary widely based upon people's experience. Most of our understanding and interpretations are based on our perceptions, what we hear from others, and even movies and other entertainment. Sometimes our ideas of a homeless person is based on how we look at ourselves. The pursuit of happiness. By now, many people have read or at least heard about Chris Gardner's autobiography, which described his 1 year struggle with homelessness after facing a series of unfortunate challenges. The movie, The Pursuit of Happiness, starred Hollywood acting sensation Will Smith as Chris Gardner, and also shined a light on how hardworking individuals with motivation and initiative can end up homeless. If watching this movie was your first understanding of the problem, you might believe that with the right will and determination, anyone should be able to beat them. Chapter 4, Awareness. You know that feeling when you buy a new car and you feel very special because you believe that car is unique? Then all of a sudden you look around and see other cars just like yours. None of us are naive enough to believe that our new car is the only car that automotive companies made. Our sense of recognition or awareness has been heightened, and we become more aware of the other cars like the one that we have. Each day, things go on around us that we barely notice. A good example of this came from my former pastor. I'm a deacon at St. John's Missionary Baptist Church in Meridian, and our pastor, Reverend Johnson, would say, "Guys, there are a lot of people who are hurting right here in the neighborhood. Every day, homeless individuals and prostitutes are walking right in our midst, and we're failing to meet their needs." It wasn't until Pastor Johnson made those statements that I actually became aware of who was actually walking up and down the streets next to the church. Nothing changed. I became more informed and began to notice who was on the street. I became aware. I will address the role of the church a little later in the book. I had always thought I could recognize the homeless. They were the ones standing in the intersection asking for money. At least that's what I thought. My pastor's comments aroused my awareness around the church, but not beyond that. One day I was driving from Birmingham, Alabama to Lorman, Mississippi to pick up my son from college. And I had the thought of creating a business and leaving it for my kids. About 2 hours into the drive, I realized what I wanted to do in this business. I could not come up with an idea for a product, but I had learned quite a few things in my 30 plus years of employment in various Fortune 100 and 500 companies, and I knew I could help others. The idea of helping the homeless idea came to my head through various scriptures. Around the third hour of my drive, I pulled off the intersection in Jackson, Mississippi. I drove by the bus station where I saw individuals from various walks of life. They were not holding signs, but were lying on benches or just walking up and down the street. They had a peculiar look that I really had not noticed before, but my awareness meter had been cranked up high since my discussion with Pastor 3 years earlier. I called my daughter as I was leaving Lorman and I told her my thoughts about establishing a business. I told her that no matter what I did, nothing would seem successful unless I found a way to help the homeless. My actual words were, "God will not bless anything I do unless I find a way to feed his sheep." I arrived back in Meridian and began to notice the same types, not stereotypes, of people that I had noticed in Jackson, only they were not near the bus station. When I got home, I began to think about what I could do to help the homeless, and I came up with the We Care program. I conducted research and realized there are varying degrees of homelessness, being without a home or stranded or down and out. My awareness now included a general understanding of homelessness. I began to look for those who were homeless, stranded, and down and out, and here's what I discovered. Chapter 10, Their Stories. I've run across some interesting stories in my travels, assisting and learning about the homeless, stranded, and down and out. My goal as always is to talk with every individual I came across as I offer a care package and explain who I am and describe my purpose. In this chapter, I will share a few more interesting stories using only initials and nicknames. Quite a few individuals who were homeless have prayed for me, and some have asked to pray for them. More people have prayed for me than I have prayed for them in the public square. Several have cried, and overwhelming numbers have hugged me as if I were a long lost brother. The individuals I've come across are of different races, genders, and ages, single and married, and family groups. Some spoke very eloquently, others may have had limited education. Some were disabled, others seemed to be in excellent physical shape. Pride is one of the key character traits that can be effective when you're homeless. I've come across some people who refuse any assistance, and also those who show extreme humility. Here are a few of their stories. Popeye, white male, 67. Driving through Gulfport, Mississippi, I saw a gentleman pushing a wheelchair across busy Highway 49. He called himself Popeye. He was an elderly gentleman who was hurt on an offshore rig 20 plus years ago. He'd had open heart surgery and had been to prison on numerous occasions. He said with a proud look that his focus was now on God's will for his life. Popeye told me that he was now well educated and knew a few words with more than 4 letters. He had a car, but it was not running, and if he could get enough money to put a motor in it, it would be a good car. He pointed to a vacant lot off Highway 49 and told me that he wanted to find the owner so he could set up a tent and have church service there. He used to work on the oil rigs in the Gulf of Mexico, and one day he was injured on the job. Popeye was not able to draw workers' compensation at the time because the company said he was negligent, but his body has not been right since. The scars on both of his knees looked like something you would see on a former athlete. He said that on some days he could barely walk. I asked him if the wheelchair he was pushing around was so he could rest his knees. He gave me an emphatic "Hell no!" and added, "I don't need no damn wheelchair to get around. I may sit in it time to time and carry my stuff in it, but I'm Popeye and I'm strong." He told me that he lived a hard life, and some of it was his own doing. He fought with family members. He opened up his shirt and showed me a scar from a previous heart surgery. Then he said, "But old Popeye's tough. Ask anybody around here about Popeye." He said he hadn't always lived right, but God had a plan for him. He tried his best not to use much profanity, but every now and then a word or two would slip out, and he would apologize. He lived on the streets and in shelters, but he said that God had provided for him, and he wanted him to go out and spread the good news. In a somber tone, he said, "It's rough out here on these streets, but I'm going to make it because God has plans for me." He was not looking to leave the area, and after 45 minutes conversation on the side of Highway 49 as the sun was going down, he asked if I'd prayed for him. I told him yes. I prayed for him, and he took my care package and told me he was greatly appreciated and asked me to look him up next time I was in town. I watched as Popeye moved on down the highway with a sense of confidence and pride. His weary body and cracked face told a whole different story. M, white female, mid-30s. Driving around Meridian, Mississippi one Saturday morning in late December, I pulled off the Philadelphia airport exit looking for anyone who was in need of help. It was an overcast day, and in all honesty, I was kind of tired. I noticed a woman sitting by herself behind a convenience store. As I turned the car around, she got off the stoop and walked down the street. I pulled my car up to her and I told her who I was and what I was doing. She said that she was homeless, and I asked her now, "How did she end up that way?" Millipede effect. My quest to understand and help the homeless, stranded, and down and out. Now available online at Amazon, Barnes& Noble, AuthorHouse, BBB2M LLC. Also available at many other online book retailers.